Liberation begins where domestication ends. Have we domesticated our desires, restricted our reality, been bound by outdated beliefs? As the light starts to flirt with shadow and truth seduces illusion, the upcoming new moon in Libra reminds us not all temptation is to be tamed, rather embraced for the harmony it can bring. Because clarity doesn't come from suppressed silence, but in listening to the darkness within our own bodies. The emotionally dense, blurred lines of another way, calling to release the self-betrayal of any soul surrendering, by simply asking what we really want, or rather who. And from here, deciding which version of our own consciousness can break us free from the cosmetic cult of creative conditioning we find ourselves in. I've never been into boundaries. I find them the greatest turn-off there is. Rigid, hard, forced, often trauma-based separations that many use to excuse poor behaviour. I prefer blurred lines, flexibility, movement, flow of something constantly alive within us, over domestication any day. Which is why I can feel a deep darkness rising. Not only that, but embrace it, for the middle ground it offers. The in-between threshold of potential, held in a united void of creation. Because I refuse to be a good girl and fit into the belief of boundaries, tightened up into what is acceptable, placated by my own idealistic personal patriarchy. It isn't easy, of course. I get hurt, let down, disappointed, tempted even by the devil, him, or is that her self? To look at the light I'm suppressing every time I want to shrink down. The love I offer, services I provide, wisdom I have gained. Actions dictated simply based on how I, have been received and returned back to me by others. Now, I'm not for 1 minute suggesting this is how it should be for everyone, and that's the difference, you see, one of many. Without restriction of reality, I don't feel the need to impose or expect confirmation, adhesion, or agreement. Because my own consciousness, like each of ours, isn't a cult of external belonging, but a stream of silence and stillness within each individual psyche that we're all part of and as such add to. And it is the awareness of this, now rising. Call it the feminine, darkness, creativity, psychic vision, healing, shadow. I mean, in truth, the names we have given it are more expansive than the energy itself. Which is the very reason so many are feeling such discomfort at the remembrance of this primordial force within their own cellular core. Because of separation and ultimately eradication, born from the desire to understand, grown in the yearnings to control, created through the passage of fear, pain, and trauma, not from the experiences that have shown us our disconnection, but the loss of ourselves in the process. Something we will all face with the upcoming new moon in Libra. A time to set intentions and pursue harmony simply in becoming our goals, as we from here weigh up the options that will determine our focus. The driving force to be reflected upon behind the life many are continuing to create. Providing renewed energy for existing aspirations and space for innovative opportunities by releasing what no longer brings us balance within the homeostasis of our own humanity. Meaning, it is less about what we get, assume, or let's face it, demand from relationships, none more so than the one we have with Pachamama herself, but what we bring to them. The undomesticated Selka or light that no longer wishes to be boundaried in the darkness of its own misunderstanding. The sixth moon to fall in the sign of Libra, we're being invited to look at the beauty and choices available within any situation, rather than their lack. And yes, that does mean at times offering a more blurred line of expectation if we wish to restore harmony over control. Focusing on partnerships and connections, none more so than the ones we have with ourselves, it is in seeking peace we will not find but remember the actions we came here to create. And in reality, this will no doubt bring some perceived uncertainty around where we may see ourselves, or at the very least, who we believed we were. As through the recognition of restriction, including any external reflection, we can embrace perhaps areas we may have let ourselves go, down, fall, fill in the words, for the necessary descent we are now facing, bringing back the part or parts of us like Inanna that have yet to be retrieved because of perfection, expectation, and assumption. A time for open communication, compromise, and negotiation, rigidity has no room in this lunar phase if we wish to heal any rifts, strengthen bonds, and deepen our understanding of others for the self-awareness available. Whilst this may come in the form of pattern recognition and a knee-jerk defensiveness, we would be better suited to look beyond the external cycles and reclaim the emotive flow that at times hidden is creating them from within. Through this introspection, we will see how well we are showing up in the areas of life we wish to prioritize, and in this, receive any emotional healing towards past grievances, moving forward with more flexible, compassion-based considerations. This, of course, could lead many towards collaborative projects, teamwork, networking, and building alliances for the continued career growth now being sought through fairness, diplomacy, and cooperation on a collective level, bringing with it a transformation and, in some cases, redirection, moving from Libra to Scorpio season with the help of a grand water trine involving Black Moon Lilith. We can expect to reconcile with our deeper, darker, taboo even, longings and desires by facing life's shadows and more complex dimensions instead of complying with them. Now is a chance to integrate and complete anything that shifted with Pluto's recent retrograde, as it stations direct into Aquarius, supporting necessary adjustments which, despite how uncomfortable to our external environment, highlight the internal changes that have occurred without our own appreciation, providing a moment, if you will, of consciousness catch-up in whatever form the physical body needs. With Venus ingressing into Libra, trine Pluto just before the new moon, all relationship dynamics and nuances are set to rise, encouraging us to look more intently at the need to unite, co-create, and receive the universal truth that no man or woman, sorry ladies, is an island, as we from here collectively acknowledge the less than constructive good person martyrdom of a far darker, unrecognized patriarchal system. The creation cult, based upon outdated, fear-mongered, boundaried beliefs born from scarcity over abundance, and from here take responsibility of the obvious self-care and recognition needed from within. On the 22nd, a day later, Neptune, returning into Pisces for the last time in 150 years, brings a final chapter to a journey that started in 2012, when the world was turned upon its head, according to the Mayan calendar, the process of Pachacuti, in order to see, be, and ultimately deliver the new earth, world tree, pathways of enlightenment, cosmic womb, Christ consciousness, take your pick, ultimately providing one last push to take care of unfinished business and wrap, not tie up, loose ends. In welcoming change, releasing controlling perspectives, no matter how content their familiarity, and facing with courage the darkness Scorpio season brings, this new moon, occurring at 28 degrees of Libra, despite how it may feel, is actually here to close eclipse season, to bring light, illuminating the path forward in all areas we have yet to acknowledge. Squaring both Jupiter in Cancer and Pluto in Aquarius, opposing Chiron in Aries, it is the unhealed wounds now increasing that will affect our ability to trust and move within any repetitive struggles or suffering. Meaning we must make the unconscious conscious, if we are to see where we may not only be giving away, but minimizing our feminine power as the map forward. By the 29th, Mercury enters Sagittarius, asking us to broaden our minds and search for knowledge in new ways, particularly in the untouched, virgin-like space between desire and decision, where instinct and integrity becomes real conversation over aesthetically pleasing pillow talk. for the soul, reminding us of the value found in direct experiences, what's true over performance, alongside any existential questions in life. Suggesting if we wish to find the substance and meaning longed for collectively, we must first create it, because attraction without embodiment becomes entanglement. Ultimately, here to reveal the difference between fact and belief, this new moon reminds us it is our own ability to embrace assumptions and the internalized truths behind them that will empower any expansive mindsets. However, with this comes an emotional grief for what was that can only be accepted through the application of any future dreams into our here and now. Opposing Uranus and Gemini, any resistance of this introspection could bring forth sudden insights or downloads to redirect us towards a clearer, less blurred vision. Until then, with Mercury, Mars, and later the Sun in Scorpio, personal and global shadows will rise, bringing with them the opportunity to see into the corners of our own psyche and the caged wisdom we have tried to domesticate. Of course, Libra's more negative aspects can include indecisiveness and people-pleasing, making the next few weeks a vital time to acknowledge our achievements, prioritize well-being, express creativity, and emphasize any hoped horizons through intimacy and shared resources. Sometimes it isn't that we don't know what we want, we've just forgotten who we came here to be, and the next few months will initiate circumstances that reflect this as needed, often through people or situations that don't, which, with Chiron and Jupiter clashing on the 23rd, could interrupt any identities being clung to, as our own autonomy comes under the spotlight, particularly where divinity has been distorted for less than higher gains. Rather than avoid, now is a time to explore new ways of expressing a more sacred no, as not only can pleasure without boundaries become confusion, its alternative merely forms control. What we are currently moving through will not only remain relevant until completed, but could be the individual themes we are all being guided to change as we move through 2026. Making compassion, particularly regarding repetitive scenarios or cycles, essential, as a far greater integration shifts the collective, reminding us any separation, be that gender, religion, offerings, expectations, or the world we are creating, witnessing, and longing for, are null and void. Removing any boundaries between us and the divine wild animism we are being called to hear from within. Bringing deep transformation, clarity, and growth through one emotional truth. There is no more pretending who we are. Only this renewed purpose and focus holds the potential to ensure the path we are walking is our own. As with the center point of a yod, involving Saturn, Neptune, and Aries, this lunar phase helps to rebuild our principles without appeasement, helping us not only make peace with others and ourselves, but redefine important life changes, which I cannot stress enough, will be based upon the middle line of reciprocity, Aini, from a more sacred, less scarred or scared flow of give and take, regardless of the offering, be that work, money, love, healing, connection, or whatever floats our egoic boat. It is the commitment and effort now required to find a new essence of being as we assert our desires in less aggressive, healthier, independent ways, particularly if we wish to avoid excess or exaggeration with the Jupiter-Pluto square. It's not that we can't have what we want, just that any demanding impatience doesn't integrate our goals any quicker. If anything, it merely serves their separation from within us. Happening in the UK on the 21st of October at 1:25 p.m, initiating the numerical frequencies of the High Priestess, Emperor, Hierophant, Chariot, Hermit, Wheel of Fortune, Justice, Death, World, and Lovers overall. The new moon in Libra encourages us to see endings for the decisions required to restore our intuitive wisdom, to hear what our bodies are trying to say, read from the same page of our own potential, and no longer restrict the senses through domestication of our emotions, but let them liberate us. Beyond the lessons or outcomes expected to the less restrained movement of our psyche and innate well-being, as we face the choices that have blurred from our own vision without it. crossing the threshold in more ways than we will realize until next year. By admitting our actions are not what makes us and stepping beyond this patriarchal perfection, we can acknowledge where clarity has come from suppressed silence, our own included, and from here the increasing shadow can do what it does best: illuminate the decisions we may now need to make in order to restore harmony to our own cosmetically concealed consciousness. May we all get real to our own nature by recognizing the difference between submission and self-betrayal. And deepest Munai, I ask you now, no more pretending. You know where I am. Take care. Kirsty.